Hello class. Today we're going to be going into Chapter 18, Section 3 with energy transfer, looking at food chains and food webs and how energy goes through a system in ecology. So first, just energy and the definition and why do we need it. Maintains homeostasis, which homeostasis, if you remember back, we've done this since Chapter 1, is a stable internal environment. So things like being able to grow, reproduce, maintain a stable temperature, heart rate, sweating, things like that that are functions that you don't have to think about that your body takes care of. So the amount of energy that's available in a system or in a community is based on how many organisms live in that ecosystem. When we look at our energy flow, it starts with the sun. All the energy comes from the sun and then is used by producers to produce energy. And then producers are eaten by consumers, and sometimes consumers eat other consumers, and sometimes consumers eat producers. We'll go through what some of those terms are. You've had those probably back in like 5th grade, but we'll go back through those as well. So our trophic levels, this is the organism's position in a sequence of energy transfers. So a trophic level is just a group where you fall in this kind of pyramid here. And so down at the bottom we have the producers, and we always have to have more producers than we do consumers in order to have enough energy for the consumers. And then we'll go up one, we have our primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. So you can see some examples there. We have producers, plants, algae, bacteria. Primary consumers are insects, mice, and rabbits as examples. Secondary consumers are frogs and snakes. And then our tertiary consumers, fish, big birds, mammals as examples. So in your notes packet, if you're filling that out, you can put those examples in. One other thing about the trophic levels we'll get to here in just a minute is kind of the rule of tens, saying that your energy is lost by 10% every time you go up the chain. And so if you are at the top of the chain, there's fewer of you as far as your particular species. There's fewer of you that are going to be at the top of the chain than there are at the bottom of the chain, because you have to have enough energy for everybody to survive. So if you look on your notes packet, we're just going to give some names of these and kind of define what they are. Autotrophs make their own food. It is the largest category. And if you need to put a definition in for autotrophs, they make own food. Sorry, my pen is not working very well, so having to use the mouse right now makes it a little bit tedious to write. So they make their own food. Herbivores is another term that's on your sheet, and those eat plants, so they're the second consumers. We'll give that definition on another slide as well, I believe, but they eat plants. Third and above are all the other consumers. So we have heterotrophs, omnivores, carnivores, and decomposers, and that's going to be your smallest group. So here, omnivores, an example is humans, eat plants and animals. Detritivores are scavengers, and they feed on dead plant and animal remains. Example would be buzzards. And decomposers are fungus and bacteria. I think that we had all the other ones listed. Carnivores eat meat, herbivores eat plants. So you should have all of those listed in your notes packet. Here they are if you didn't get them written in already. Heterotrophs eat other organisms for energy. Herbivores eat plants. Carnivores eat other animals. All right, so energy gained by trophic level. If you're in your notes packet, there's another triangle that'll be shown here. At each trophic level, the energy stored in an organism is about 1/10 that of the level below it. So it's called the kind of rule of tens or 10% rule. And you can see here how that works. As it goes up each trophic level, we're losing some of that energy because that organism is using up some of that energy. So when you eat that organism, you're not getting 100% of the energy because they've used some of it. Here's an example as well. And you have a picture in your notes packet. If you don't have the notes packet, you may want to draw something in. Okay, and so what it does to the ecosystem, energy diminishes at each successive trophic level. So very few ecosystems contain more than 4 or 5 trophic levels, just because there's not going to be enough energy for those organisms that are higher up in the chain. Organisms at higher levels, like large carnivores, tend to be fewer in number than those at the lower levels, which would be the producers. All right, moving on, we have food chain and food web. So a food chain is a single pathway that organisms eat from each other in order to pass that energy. And you can see in the picture we have producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and then decomposers kind of take care of anything that's dying or dead material. Here's an example of a food chain as well. And then a food web is a diagram of interrelated food chains. So it's multiple food chains. This is more realistic to how the ecosystem actually works. And you have a picture of this on your notes packet. Now in your notes packet, you should see that you have some examples that you can practice. Notice a couple things as you're getting ready to do that, that when you write the organism in, so you put your producers in this case you'd have some grasses and aquatic plants, the arrow will point to the thing that's eating. So in this case, a snail is eating from the grass, and then the grasshopper is eating the snail, and then the shrew is eating the grasshopper. So the arrow points to the thing that is eating. In yours that you can practice in your notes packet, take some time to practice those, and then you can check them up in front with me just to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You can check your work just to make sure that you're understanding what we've gone over so far, and make sure that you can answer some of these questions just so that you're understanding the work that we've covered at this point.